You're listening to Affected by Altitude, a Colorado Rockies podcast for and by Rockies fans on Rocky Mountain Rooftop. Thank you for joining us as we discuss all things baseball and Colorado Rockies. Hello and welcome to Affected by Altitude, a Colorado Rockies podcast on Rocky Mountain Rooftop, proud affiliate of the Fans First Sports Network. I'm your host, Evan Lang, and with me, as always, my partner in crime, Skyler Timmons.
There's no evidence I committed those crimes with you.
I mean, yeah, we hid the evidence. Wait, I shouldn't have said that.
Who says there's any evidence?
It's still one of my favorite underrated Simpsons. Oh, crap. I definitely shouldn't have said he was a client. Oh, crap. I definitely should have said he had an account. Oh, crap. I definitely shouldn't have said it was illegal. Oh, it's too hot today. But speaking of hot or not, the Colorado Rockies, Skyler.
Aggressively mediocre.
That's honestly giving them a little too much credit. They've been continued to be bad, sloppy, just not a very good baseball team. At time of recording, they're currently on rain delay against the New York Yankees, but it's pretty much looking like this game is going to end with a loss from the Rockies, as they still do not have double-digit wins. They did win their 9th game against the Yankees to open the series. It was actually a very fun game, but you never know when that 10th win is going to get there. Still some difficult teams to face going through the rest of May. I honestly don't think that there's going to be double-digit wins until we hit June, but that's just sort of the state of things for this team.
Yeah, it's ugly. And Patrick Saunders of the Denver Post before Sunday's game, was tweeting stuff out about what the Rockies would have to do the rest of the season to avoid 100 losses, and that was to basically play 500 ball the rest of the season, and then to avoid breaking the White Sox record and hitting 122 losses, they would have to go 32-78 the rest of the way. And Evan, the way things have gone,
that's not going to happen.
That ain't happening. So that they've already dug their own grave. We already know the end result. This is going to be a stinky season, and it's it's rough.
And for what it's worth, interim manager Warren Schaeffer has been saying the right things about that. He's not going out there and saying, we're going to salvage this season. We're going to become a winning baseball team this year. We're going to make the playoffs. We're going to turn things around. He's going out there and saying, this is a learning opportunity, and we're going to try and learn and figure things out as much as we can, which is the mindset we should have gone into the season with, probably with a different manager than Bud Black, definitely with a different manager than Bud Black when we started this season. No more of the, maybe we can play 500 ball, or, we're going to be a really great defense, or any of that. This is what this season was always going to be, but now the guy at the helm is actually saying that, and we've seen that opportunity for trying to have guys learn with the temporary benching of Michael Toglia, where Schaefer was very open with being like, we want him before we put him back in the lineup to work on his swing and work on his plate approach. And so he's going to take a couple games off, and he's going to do that. We've heard Brenton Doyle talk about how it doesn't really matter where they hit him in the lineup. It's about trying to help him find his rhythm at the plate. And that's really what needed to be happening with this season to begin with. But now, better late than never.
Yeah. It's the thing in baseball is, I think of Jim Tracy when he was manager. He said this a lot of the times when he was managing, in terms of when it comes to the bullpen, where it was mostly you want to be able to use the bullpen when you want to, not when you're forced to. And that's the way it's been for the Rockies now in terms of rebuilding and trying to develop and figure things out at the big league level. Is there were things, like you said, these are things they could have been doing last year before that, things they've been needing to do, but they haven't, because they've treated the team like, we're just a couple pieces away from contention. And so reality has hit them. They are in the spot they are in, where a rebuild, so to speak, or even just a retooling has been thrust upon them. And so it's glad that they finally caught up to that page, and Warren Schaeffer is perfect for that to help, because he's got that mentality and other guys are buying into it. And you're seeing some positive results No, it's not resulting in the wins, Evan. But you mentioned that Yankees game. No, when they win 3-2, exactly what we're talking about. That's the kind of games the Rockies could be delivering more of, like competitive games.
Yeah,
You
it
know,
was fun. The Yankees came in and we played a tight ball game up to the last minute of the game and ended up walking away with a win. I enjoyed myself,
yeah,
which is
and
not something we can say about a lot of Rockies games this year, was that we enjoyed watching them.
yeah, and there were some in that Philly series where they were there's stretches of competitive baseball in these games until things get away from them. So that's kind of the point we're at, but you have to take things as innings as they come. Like Saturday, yeah, they ended up giving up 10 runs in an inning, lost pretty big there, but for 4 innings, it was pretty close. They had
Yeah.
some big hits in there, and then it got away from them. So, even on this Sunday, as we're in a rain delay, same thing. Close, competitive games. A lot of things are wrong with offense and pitching wise, but you're getting a little bit more tolerant of the losses, as weird as that is to say, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. And even then, for the Rockies in this game here on Sunday, it's 4-2. This is not a game that is completely out of reach. And no, the Rockies haven't played particularly well, especially hitting. They've got 2 runs on 2 hits, but it's at least close. It hasn't turned into a blowout yet. And that's what happened with a lot of those Phillies games. They were close for a minute and then just completely unraveled.
Yeah.
But it's learning. And that's the thing, is at the very least, the coaching staff right now is on the right page, which is this is a bad team that's going to lose a lot of games, but it's an opportunity to learn and grow and figure out what it is we're doing. And hopefully the front office gets on that page, because it doesn't sound like Bill Schmidt's on that page.
Yeah.
With
Because
every time he talks.
Because the coaching staff itself is, you got plenty of guys that are experienced coaching young players in the minors. Even Daryl Scott, he's been in this organization since 2009. Worked his way up through the minor league system and in the front office and stuff. So, everybody in that dugout pretty much has that experience working with young guys in the minors. That's what you need right now. It's guys above them that need to get on that page of figuring some things out and listening to other people of realizing where they're at.
Yeah, like when you have Bill Schmidt going, oh, if we had Estrada and Tovar the whole season and they hadn't gotten hurt, things would be different. But they wouldn't be.
No.
The Rockies would still be bad. They would maybe be slightly less bad. Yeah. Maybe not historically awful like they are this year, but they'd still be bad.
Yeah, if you're hinging all of your hopes of you would not be on a historically bad pace, if you're hinging all those hopes on the $3-point-something million contract of Thairo Estrada, your priorities are not correct as an organization.
Yeah.
Either that or your reality is warped beyond redemption there. Like, that's no offense to Thairo Estrada, good player.
Yeah,
and
like
he's
the guy
on his way back. We'll touch on him here soon. But he's not the game changer that, say, somebody else would be.
Even then, there is no one player that you slot into this lineup, you slot into this rotation, you slot into this bullpen, that is going to magically fix everything that is broken about this organization. That's just not how baseball works.
Yeah. Evan, I was scrolling through TikTok, came across a guy who was doing a little video series on TikTok where he's like, I'm adding one legend in MLB The Show to the Rockies lineup and simulating the season and seeing what happens. So I've only seen 3 videos thus far. It was like, okay, he put Ted Williams on the roster. Well, the Rockies still lost 98 games. The next year he adds Ken Griffey Jr. Well, they win a couple more, still nothing. Then he adds Randy Johnson like the third year, and I think they just barely missed the playoffs, but they still won a bunch more games. That's 3 Hall of Fame legends on that team as currently constructed. Can we go back in time and bring those guys back Bill and Ted style? Probably not.
I don't know. I feel like Griffey could probably still tank 1 or 2, but he and Randy Johnson seem pretty happy with their photography businesses.
Yeah, and we would have to go back in time Bill and Ted style to get Ted Williams.
Yeah, unfortunately, has what is it? And your starting right fielder has been dead for 138 years.
But yeah, it's like you're saying, there's no one simple fix. One player isn't going to magically change everything. One or two guys wasn't magically going to put the team where they change their direction of where they are now. That's not how baseball works.
Yeah, I mean, look at the Los Angeles Angels had Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani at the same time and didn't sniff the playoffs.
Yeah.
This is a sport where you've got to get multiple positions right. You've got to get multiple things right. And the Rockies have gone a very long time without doing that. And that's why it's so frustrating to have Bill Schmidt go out there and talk about, oh, we're close. Oh, if this had happened. Oh, if that's happened. It's more that proves to me that Bill Schmidt is not the man for this job.
Yeah. And because he's had his hands in the organization for a long time now as well with scouting everything. You know, he's hit on a lot of guys and helped with that. The Arenados, the Stories, the Tulowitzkis, all that stuff. But even then, you know, that's still a group effort of a ton of guys, and he's the head guy of scouting. Right now, he's still relying on the information he had when he was just a scout, of guys he liked when he was a scout.
Yeah. And I don't even think he was a particularly bad scout, because I think I do think the Rockies have drafted well and signed, undrafted free agents well, signed international free agents well, but where it all falls apart is the development aspect, where the Rockies are just not getting the most out of their guys that they're trying to develop.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose that's a good segue into, the next thing to talk about is...
I was wondering how we were going to get there.
is second baseman Adael Amador. So Thairo Estrada is currently on rehab assignment with the AAA Albuquerque Isotopes and has been playing pretty well in the couple of games that he's been down there.
Couple hits, couple ribbies.
His return is imminent. He will be back. They've opened up a spot on the 40-man roster for him by designating Scott Alexander for assignment. He's going to be here sooner rather than later. And the question is then, what happens with Adael Amador? Because since Bud Black was terminated, Warren Schaeffer has played Amador almost every day, which is what we'd been screaming for since the beginning. But right now, where Adael Amador is at, I don't think he is particularly showing that, at least right now. I'm not saying he's never going to be the guy. He's 22 years old, but that right now he is not ready to be the guy.
Yeah, it's those perfect opportunities, and this is what the team needed. This is why we wanted them to play Ilaris Montero when we did. Give these guys a run, see what they have, and if it's not really hitting, okay, well, we can kind of not pin all our hopes on this guy, but we can start looking around and he stays in the pile. His resume stays in the pile, but you get a little reality check of, oh, well, maybe he isn't the guy for the future. Maybe it's somebody else. But you never know that if you don't play him. So win, lose, or draw, he's in there every day, which is what you want to see from that type of player. And that puts the ball in Amador's court now of, okay, kid, it's yours. Do what you will with it. Because the clock's ticking. There's a deadline. Make the decision hard.
Still pretty young in comparison, but you just look at what he has done since Warren Schaeffer became the manager and he's been playing more. He's 4 for 27 with 5 walks and 8 strikeouts. He's hitting 148, 281, 148, no extra base hits, 2 ribbies, 0 for 1 stealing. And for the season so far, he is worth negative 1.1 wins above replacement.
Yeah.
I don't think he's ready. And I'm satisfied knowing that now that he's gotten, for the last, 2 weeks or so, actual consistent playing time.
Yeah.
Where it's not, he starts once every 3 or 4 games. He started basically every day since Bud Black got fired. And you can see parts of what makes him so appealing. That strikeouts to walk ratio, pretty good. That's very similar. It's not quite where he's been at in the minors, but it shows that he has a very good eye, but there's more to work on. He's got to work on his plate approach. He's got to work on actually making contact. And you've got to decide now then, do you have him work on that up here in the bigs, or do you have him work on that in AAA like Zach Veen has been doing?
Yeah, that's the the sticky wicket of it all, is figuring out what do you do with all of that. And he's gotten better as of late. Like you said, the strikeout to walk ratio, it's still bad on the season, still way more strikeouts than walks. But since he's been in there most every day, regularly playing, that's improved. That's stabilized itself. Where you can see that it's the lack of contact. He's just not making impact on the ball. He barely had his first couple RBIs during this stretch where he's playing every day. So you can see the little bit of learning and growing, but it's a matter of is it getting worthwhile here at the big league level? Is it helping him in a place to succeed and find his way through these 2-3 weeks that he's been playing more regularly? Is it beneficial? What is benefits, or is the trip back down to AAA? If Estrada's coming back, no, he's the most likely one because it would cut into his playing time, so it would get him regular bats back down to AAA. What can help him back down there? Is that more beneficial to him?
And it's tough because guys like Jordan Pacheco and other members of the coaching staff are now up here in the big league level.
Yeah.
But I do think right now it might be better for him to go back down to AAA because I think his confidence is taking a hit. I think he's pretty clearly frustrated, and I hate to say it because I know that he is young and I know that there's still opportunities for growth, but I'm not sure his emotional maturity is quite where it needs to be just yet. And one of the major things was on the Saturday game against the New York Yankees, when things were very quickly spiraling out of control. You had a Yankees hitter hit the ball very much over Amador's head, and Amador, his glove goes flying up into the air. And, the line is that, it just slipped off of his hand while he was trying to make a play. But there was no way it was going to be possible to make on that play. It was, many feet above his head. But if your glove is slipping off and rocketing off that much, then you need to bring it to the equipment manager and see what's wrong with it. And my honest opinion is that, and this is, not something I'm faulting Amador for, is that he got frustrated. The game was spiraling out of control, and there were a couple opportunities to make plays that he hadn't been able to earlier in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he just threw his glove up at the ball. And kudos to Warren Schaeffer, who did not throw Amador under the bus, and probably talked to Amador after the game in the clubhouse and stuff like that. But I think what we saw was a frustrated young player kind of losing his cool. And we've seen that a couple times where he'll get frustrated, he'll jaw a little bit with an umpire or something like that, and his defense as well has not been quite up to snuff for where it could be, because he'll make some really impressive plays, and then he'll also make some pretty frustrating ones.
Yeah, it's very apparent that he is a young 22-year-old who, baseball has been his life for quite a while now, professional baseball type of thing. So there's not that growth and maturity that just happens in life. Maybe going to play in a college league or all this other stuff. It's very apparent that he is just a young, inexperienced player type of thing. He's still young. There's still some aging and maturity to go. Not everybody's an old man in a young man's body like Ezekiel Tovar. It's very apparent of, okay, maybe there's a lot of work between the ears that needs some maturing as well. That will help the rest of his game. Because it's understandable to get frustrated when you're struggling and all these other things, especially when the team's doing bad. But you can't lose that mental battle with yourself. Can't be throwing your glove up in the air, because if he makes contact on that, well, it would have been a triple. And how's that going to help anything? So we know the talent he has, the potential he has, but then it makes you think, well, is he the one the Rockies need to hold on tightly and base all their plans around? Or is it a matter of, well, he's in the running, but there's other guys that we can look at now in play.
You've got, Thairo Estrada is going to be back and ready to go soon. You've got Ryan Ritter down in AAA, who's really been playing pretty well, especially recently. Or, even with the big league roster, you could platoon Thairo and say Aaron Schunk or other middle infielders that you've got right now. And right now, I think probably the best confidence-wise, the best move is going to be optioning Adael Amador to AAA. Not forever, because I do think you still want to see where he's at, but make sure he's going to continue to get consistent at bats and see where things go from there.
Yeah. It's a matter of Thairo Estrada, if he comes back and he starts playing well, you hope the Rockies aren't scared of, we don't want to set that record, so we're going to keep Thairo Estrada even though he's playing well, and we could trade him maybe. No, it's ticking clock with all this.
Yeah.
You need some sort of solution at second base, a good long-term solution. If it's none of these guys, then take a good look at the free agent market and see who you could get.
Yeah.
And you could say that about a lot of these positions.
Yeah, but for Thairo Estrada, he is too old for you to be looking at him as the future. Even if he does come out the gate and plays very well, you don't want to say, okay, well, this guy's our second baseman for the rest of the season. You want Thairo Estrada on the trade block. He's 30 something years old. Actually, he's younger than I thought.
He just turned 29.
He just turned 29. Okay, he's a little younger than I thought. I actually thought he was older than that.
He's my age.
But the goal should be is if Thairo comes out the gate red hot, well, then there's your top guy to trade at the deadline. Because the original thought would be if Scott Alexander was going to pitch well this season, then you trade him like the Rockies have done in many recent years, but he didn't and was designated for assignment. So now Thairo Estrada is going to be the leader of your potential trade trips. It's him, it's Nick Martini, it's Kyle Farmer, it's potentially Mickey Moniak,
Jake Bird.
But for now, it's just, I feel for Amador because I know it is very frustrating to be playing poorly on a bad team, but that's just where things are at right now.
Yeah. You got to take charge of it. Do what you can to change whatever it is that you're struggling with. You got to put in that effort and work, and hopefully you find results. And whether it's with the big league club or getting regular time in the minors, because that's what the minors are for, got to figure out something.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll touch on before we take a quick break is that Thairo Estrada being back doesn't even necessarily mean that Amador has to go down to the minors, but that means that you've got to make a decision on a guy like Nick Martini or something, or Jacob Stallings no longer getting regular playing time. Like Martini can't continue to be a regular DH in that situation, or you can't have Hunter Goodman be the DH with Stallings at catcher.
Yeah. Most likely scenario, Aaron Schunk would go down instead of Amador. Like that would be your two options probably.
Yeah. And even then I'd keep Schunk up here because he's young and we continue to see what he's got. It's just one of those things where I'm interested to see what this team does, especially with Warren Schaeffer. I hope he has a little bit of sway over decisions being made for the roster right now, especially with the young guys. But all we can do is wait and see.
Mm-hmm.
But we are going to take a quick break and continue talking Rockies baseball. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Affected by Altitude with Evan and Skyler. And Skyler, we just talked about some of the decisions that need to be made. And honestly, there's probably some more decisions that need to be made, but not in the lineup. I think it's really more in the rotation, especially with how this season has gone, where the Rockies have saddled themselves to 3, technically 4 veteran starting pitchers, and things have not gone particularly well. You have Erman Marquez, Kyle Freeland, and Antonio Sensatela, who all got extensions from this front office. Austin Gomber was brought back in arbitration this year, and this season especially, but overall, it's just those dividends have not really been paid.
No, it was all part of Bill Schmidt's thing of, he comes in and wanted to extend Kyle Freeland. Freeland was going to be in his final year of arbitration or whatever, was going to be a free agent after the 2021 season, 22 season. I forget when he signed his extension, but he signs that one extension. Okay, we wanted to keep our hometown kid because he had that really good 2018. He's a leader in this rotation. Even though since 2018, he hasn't been that good. Been pretty average to bad. Tony Senzatella has always been average. Had maybe one good year, but other than that, it's been pretty average. And they signed him to that long-term contract. Now, of the three that we're talking about, Marquez is the one who was okay giving him an extension, keeping him around. Now got that 2-year extension. When he was after he underwent Tommy John surgery. And he's in the final year of his contract, but it hasn't been a problem for the Rockies where they've been saddled for some guys for far too long for money you could have taken and spent elsewhere to improve your roster in some other aspect. But none of these guys were really screaming for, I'm an ace, I deserve to get paid long term. Honestly, outside of even Marquez, who's borderline on it, it was not money well spent by the Rockies.
Yeah, and it really is like they spent the money as if one of these guys was going to be a top of rotation guy, but we've got a rotation now. 3 guys who are 30 or older, Erman and Senzi are both 30. Kyle Freeland is 32, who would all be mid to back of rotation guys on any other team. And this year especially, they are all not doing particularly well. Not a single starting pitcher other than Ryan Feltner, who now hasn't pitched in almost a month, has a positive wins above replacement per Baseball Reference.
Yeah.
Everybody has an ERA other than Ryan Feltner of 5 or higher. Kyle Freeland at 5.68, Senzi coming into today's game at 6.34, and Erman at 7.66. And these are all 3 of them have 10 starts each. Nobody's missed a start. They've just all been bad. And Senzatella, his ERA would look a lot worse had he not done some real Houdini stuff very early in the season against the Rays and against the Phillies, where he somehow escaped relatively unscathed despite giving up an insane amount of contact, and he leads the league in pitchers for hits given up. Mm-hmm. That's not a guy who you want, necessarily want starting every 5 days. And for Kyle now, it's there is no more expecting him to bounce back to 2018 form. That form doesn't exist.
Yeah.
That was very clearly a fluke, and it was a fun fluke, but you look at his ERA over the last, few seasons, and it's 2023, 5, 2024, 5.24, and right now we're sitting at 5.68. And he's had a couple pretty tough games this season. He's had some decent ones, but I would argue more mid or bad than good starts. And it's the same for Senzatella, where it's oftentimes a lot of the things that we see with Rockies pitchers of that one bad inning situation where they have one inning where things just absolutely spiral out of control.
Yeah.
And right now, the only guy who I give a little bit of leeway, not a ton, but at least a little bit, is Erman, because you do occasionally see the flashes of what makes Erman Marquez so special, especially in the last month, where against the Padres, he had that 7-inning gem of a start. This was the game that Bud Black got fired right after. 7 innings, 3 hits, 1 earned run. And then, against the Phillies last week, 7 innings, 4 hits, 1 earned run. And a lot of it is, well, how much are we looking to see him still bounce back from his Tommy John surgery and trying to find himself on the mound?
Yeah, you can't use those injuries and coming back as an excuse throughout the whole season. No, he's been throwing since last year, so he's been back from Tommy John surgery. Yes. He made his start. He was dealing with just an elbow strain, whatever it was. After that, but he looked completely fine in spring training. He looked fine in his first start of the season, and then it's just collapsed since that, and then shown those couple of bright spots here and there. Yes, but there's no scapegoats. Don't use the Tommy John surgery, which the Rockies tend to do.
Yeah, and that's not what I'm saying. Is right now you go, oh well, he's still recovering. It's now he's had the early part of the season to recover. He's got a third of his
Mhm.
starts for the season basically done. He's 10 starts in. And 2 of those most recent starts were pretty good. So now that's when you start to evaluate for me, all right, from here, if he is good from here on out, if he is far more good than bad, then you can start looking at his future with the Rockies or what you're going to do with him. Where if he looks really, really good, or at least like a mid-rotation guy or better than at least his teammates, then you either trade him at the deadline, or if he's willing to negotiate a very team-friendly deal, maybe you consider sticking with him through the next couple of seasons, which I would be okay with, as long as the Rockies need to start making the tough decisions with these other guys. And that means potentially evaluating getting rid of Kyle Freeland, getting rid of Antonio Senzatela, getting rid of Austin Gomber, who hasn't started a rehab assignment yet and won't for at least another week or so. There's been more than enough time for most of these guys to go, it might be time to move on. And I think that's where we're at. And I hate saying it, because like I love all these guys. I don't dislike any of these pitchers, especially Kyle Freeland, the hometown kid, but we gave him this big contract extension that has not paid off. Senzatela got this big contract extension that is not paid off. And your easiest out is Erman, because he's a free agent at the end of the season, and Gomber because he is, still ARB. I think is he officially free agent eligible to last year of ARB?
Yeah.
So you've got some outs, and you need to start making room and evaluating your rotation of the future, because right now you've had the same 3 guys, and I hated this argument for a long time of, the Rockies have had the same 3 main guys since 2017. But the argument is true, especially when none of them have really developed, changed, or improved.
Yeah. Since 2018, Evan, since that 2018 playoff season, got this over at Purple Row back in February, just comparing the NL West rotations. Rockies have used 35 total different starting pitchers since 2018, including openers. That's the fewest amount in the National League West entering this season. Oh, and of these other teams, a lot of these other teams, there's like maybe 1 or 2 staples since the start of the 2019 season. No, for the Giants, it's, Logan Webb has appeared and other things. But for a lot of these rotations, they fluctuated. They have maybe 1 or 2 staples. It's mainly 1 that have been around since then, since after that 2018 playoff where this rotation was so crucial, those 3 guys, among some others. But since then, it has not panned out, and these other teams have fluctuated through the rotation. They have changed things. Now they've pinpointed at least 1 main guy. Other than that, a lot of them aren't long for the road, but the Rockies saddled themselves to 3 guys. Now, these are our homegrown talent. They're going to help us win again. Problem is, you can't become too attached if you're a Colorado Rocky, because eventually it's going to come back to bite you. And Senzatela and Freeland are still under contract through 1 more season. Both have options for 2027. Freeland's is a vesting option. He has to reach 170 innings next year.
And he probably will.
I believe it's next year. And then Senzatela's is a club option. And you wonder, okay, if they're sticking around, they're going to hold on to those guys because they don't want to eat that money. Can you afford to keep them in the rotation, or is one or both need to go to the bullpen?
I think your most obvious candidate for the bullpen is Senzi. He's really only a 2-pitch guy. You might be able to get more velo and more stuff out of him in short stints than in the rotation. And I think you've got to at least try to shake something up with Senzatela, because him as an every 5-day starter is not working.
Yeah.
Where it's the same thing every start, where he's given up a ton of contact. He's potentially giving up a ton of runs.
Leads the league in hits allowed.
Try something new at least with Senzatela. And because Ryan Feltner is hopefully going to be back soon, and he's at least proven to be deserving of an extended look in this rotation. You've got Chase Dolander now, who is on the IL for hopefully mostly precautionary reasons. They say he's still doing some light throwing and stuff like that. And the goal is for him to be back after the 15 days. And now you've got Carson Palmquist, who two difficult first starts in the bigs for Palmquist, but you could also see what there is to like about him.
Yeah. And they've talked about that he's also a bullpen candidate where, oh, well, he could also be a long man in the bullpen.
Exactly. But you've got to start figuring things out, especially when there are more young guys coming up. You've got Gabriel Hughes, you've got Sean Sullivan, and you need to start thinking about these things. And I know it stinks and you get very attached, but you've got to make decisions. And right now, feasibly, I think you could see, walking away from all four of these veterans, from Kyle, from Senzi, from Herman, from Gomber, and it potentially being for the better. And, just to discuss on what you had mentioned with, all these other teams, there's maybe one anchor, maybe two anchors. That's the thing, is no one is saying you have to shake up your rotation every year. No one is saying you have to run out a completely different rotation every season. But you can't anchor yourself to too many guys. You've got to grow and evolve and make changes. And usually you have your one or your two. And if it had just been, okay, we just have Kyle Freeland or we just have Herman Marquez, we're in a completely different situation right now.
Yeah. It's like, no, take the Giants or no, take the Diamondbacks or no, get a lot of comparisons with the Rockies. No, their two staples have been Merrill Kelly and Zach Gallen since 2019. No, Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly have both been guys where, you're as a team, you're kind of screaming, yes, we need to keep these guys. They are essential. They're really good. Same with Logan Webb and the Giants. This is a guy we have to have. There hasn't been anybody in the Rockies that we like Kyle Freeland, and it was cool when he did sign that extension. Like, okay, cool. He's sticking around. That's nice. No, even Marquez, at that point, you're like, okay, that's cool. I'm glad they extended him. But there hasn't been anybody with the Rockies probably for a while where aside from maybe John Gray, even then I was okay with him walking away. I was fine if he stayed. I was fine if he left. A lot of it's like there's been none of these starting pitchers where I was screaming, tearing my hair out of like, we need to figure out a way to keep this guy in purple. I haven't seen that with any of them. And unfortunately, it's just kind of the nature where they are. Like, they're good pitchers, good solid pitchers, but there's inconsistencies and they just still suffer from the same Rockies disease that has plagued this team for 30 plus years.
And for Herman, it's, his most recent extension was we're going to do right by the guy who's pitched for us for so long, and it has to get Tommy John that happens to coincide with when he would have been a free agent.
Mm-hmm.
Versus it being a deserved contract extension.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is that we discussed this in the first half too. This is the situation the Rockies are in, and the front office needs to be understanding that situation of making the tough decisions, moving on from guys that you are loyal to because you need to start rebuilding for the health of this team, instead of all of these long-term contract extensions that just haven't worked. Like, none of them in the Bill Schmidt era, or even honestly going back to when Jeff Bridich was still a GM, have worked.
Yeah.
It's tough, but you had the Nolan Arenado contract extension that clearly didn't work out, but for entirely different reasons. You extended Daniel Bard, you extended Ryan McMahon, Senzi, Freeland, and none of them have worked. None of these extensions have been good extensions.
Yeah. It's been a lot of buying high, but it's at the top of the mountain and it's on the decline on the other side of it. Same thing happened with Diaz and Crone. So I feel like with the Rockies, it shows the holes of how important it would be for them to improve their pitching development, to have a steady churning out of quality arms that you can rely on for 3 years, maybe 3-4 years. If one of those guys really balls out and it is really dominating, so like a Chase Dolander really locks it in and he's throwing up 3 3 ERAs, 2 ERAs, putting in some really good numbers, that's a guy that you're like, okay, this guy is screaming, we have to keep him because he's figured it out. He's comfortable here. But otherwise, you just have to kind of do what the Tampa Bay Rays have done. And I know people always point to that, but it's the constant churning out of new arms coming in, old arms going out when they're still kind of good, but not working out for you, and just get a good pipeline going. So in order for the Rockies to do that, they have to clutch to who they have that's worked, because they don't trust what's coming from behind, because they just haven't figured out how to develop pitching consistently and in a quality nature.
And it's they do some things right. The players have spoken very glowingly of the pitching lab at their Arizona complex. The focus on, biomechanics and stuff like that. But then at the same time, you've got your general manager comparing modern day analytics to looking at a stat sheet 30 years ago.
Yeah. And how much does the pitching lab help during the season?
Yeah, it's very much an off-season kind of place. And it's just another thing that this team needs to figure out.
Yeah.
It really is pitching development, because think of all the pitching prospects that we've had, and think of how many have turned into consistent, regular, good big league starters, where you could see them continuing to be a big league starter on any other team.
Yeah.
And I'm talking
not many
aces and front end, because even everybody in our rotation, none of these guys, and I mean that, not to be mean, but just to be brutally honest, no one in this Rockies rotation over the last few seasons would be an ace or a front of rotation guy on any other team.
Yeah, they would be the back end rotation swingman in the bullpen, spot starter coming up from AAA.
And there's a place for that. There's a place for that on every team. But you can't have a rotation that's entirely built out of that. And that's where the Rockies are at right now.
Yeah, and that in nature, and you can't go out and get free agents, because you just have that reputation of pitching at altitude, and what's that's going to do to guys. You'd have to overpay, and you don't have that money anyways. So the whole pitching dilemma, they claimed they had figured it out. It's got to be drafted and homegrown. That's part of it. But you have to figure out how to help pitchers succeed, and they haven't done that with starting pitching.
Yeah, especially when they get to the big leagues.
Yeah.
You can't just say, okay, you're done, which is what has happened with Senzatela, especially, where Senzatela stopped growing once he became a big league pitcher. It's been the same thing every season, primarily fastball, especially first pitch fastball, not a ton of breaking stuff, to the results that we've seen.
Yeah.
And that makes me worry about, the guys that we love down in the minors who are showing that they're almost ready. Gabriel Hughes, John Sullivan, Carson Palmquist, is when they get up here to the big leagues, they need to have that infrastructure in place for them to keep growing and improving.
Yeah. And that's the big thing that any organization is, you have to figure out the drafting and developing part. Every team has to do it. You have to figure out something. If you're going to be good at something, pick one or the other, hitting or pitching. Rockies have neither right now. And at the moment, pitching would be a really good one to have, because that would be their toughest thing. I don't know. It's frustrating, my friends.
It very much is, and unfortunately, it's probably going to keep being that way for a lot of this season. But we've got time. There's still 2/3 of the season left to see what this team does, and we'll keep on it.
Mm-hmm. Keep on.
But we are going to take one more quick break, and when we come back, we are going to close things out with a special treat for you, the listener/viewer. So,
made brownies.
I ate them all already.
Well, I guess we'll give them a different surprise.
This is better. It's a better surprise. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Affected by Altitude with Evan and Skyler. And we're going to close things out here with a nice little treat for everybody. We had the absolute delight yesterday to talk to Spokane Indians outfielder and Colorado Rockies top prospect, Mr. Charlie Condon. Absolute pleasure to speak with. So we are going to go ahead and fade out to that interview, and we hope you enjoy it. Hello and welcome to Affected by Altitude on Rocky Mountain Rooftop, right affiliate of the Fans First Sports Network. We are having a special Rooftop Mingle session today. I'm Evan Lang. With me is Skyler Timmons, and we are joined by a very special guest. Is Colorado Rockies #2 overall prospect and 2024 first-round draft pick, currently with the Spokane Indians. It's Charlie Condon. Charlie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and I think, Charlie, you've moved up in the world since Dolander's graduated. I think you're moving up in the world as the Rockies' top prospect. So,
oh, that's right. They're gonna adjust that soon. But Charlie, the thing I want to start first of all saying just how nice it is to have you back up with Spokane. I know that the last couple months, the end of last season and the start of this one didn't exactly go as planned with the injury that you were nursing last year with Spokane, and then getting injured in camp this year. How are you feeling now that you are back with Spokane and ready to play the regular season?
Yeah, I feel great. The wrist break was untimely as far as first game of spring training and things like that. It's always hard when you've had a long off season of good work, really ready to go, and then have a setback like that. It's tough, but got that all healed up, got dialed back in for the season. Feeling 100% now, and happy to be healthy out here.
Yeah, I know with that, and I was thinking about this earlier, where obviously after getting drafted, highly touted draft prospect and everything, you want to hit the ground running and put up an amazing season. But unfortunately, just the way the game goes, it can be cruel sometimes. It probably didn't go as you wanted there with Spokane when you first started playing last season. Then with the injury, how is it facing this early adversity kind of helped you in your prep as you begin this first full season of your professional career?
I know I'm far from a finished product as far as development goes. I'd still look back like I was an unrecruited kid out of high school like 3 years ago. And so, it's still, just growing into who I am. And so, yeah, a little bit of a bumpy road there early on, but really not concerned about it at all. Getting back to who I am as a player right now, feel comfortable with the work I've put in this off season and where I'm at right now to have a good year this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's nice when you have those early setbacks, because then it kind of can help you build, I guess, strength mentality of like, okay, I'm here, I can take that breather, this type of thing. Is that anything that you've kind of felt in this early part of the not the unconventional start to a career?
I'm really just focused on playing my best baseball today. I'm not really thinking about what happened in the past. As far as I'm concerned, that doesn't do any good for me. So I'm focused on where my feet are right now and looking forward for the rest of this year playing the best baseball I can.
Yeah. And you mentioned, being unrecruited, you end up being a walk-on at the University of Georgia. You turn into this incredibly highly touted prospect, drafted in the top 5 in the MLB draft, and just this incredible power hitter in college. But what has been the biggest difference, the biggest thing you've had to learn going from college ball into professional baseball over the last year and change?
Yeah, just kind of getting used to the schedule of it is a big change. College ball, you got 4 games a week. Out here, you're playing 6 every day except Monday. And so, kind of settling into that routine, getting comfortable with the group of guys out here and the coaching staff out here, and really just being able to get up in the morning and put your best baseball product out on the field every day. You can't take a pitch off, can't take a game off, because they all matter out here. And so, just being able to bring it every single day.
Mm-hmm. And with that, what's kind of your daily process that you go through to help you prep for games on a day-to-day basis?
It's just trying to get locked in for games and things like that. Times like right now, getting my swings in and just making sure my body's ready to go, getting my lifts in, eating right, and just being ready to go at game time.
outside of the general routine stuff, is there anything that you've been particularly working with, either with the Spokane coaching staff or general Rocky staff? I know occasionally Todd Helton tries to get out there to Spokane as well, but any sort of particular things that you've been working on as development goes with the coaching staff?
Yeah, just sticking to my approach, and working on some swing mechanic stuff and tightening some things up. And then just sticking to who I am. There's mechanical adjustments that you need to tweak on a weekly basis, and just making sure everything's staying tight, but nothing too specifically.
Absolutely.
Now, something I like that I was reading through an interview that you did recently, just talking about rolling with everything. And one guy that you mentioned talking about was hitting behind Jared Thomas, a good buddy of the show here. We've talked to him a couple times. But tell us a little bit more about just your teammates that you're playing with out there in Spokane, and how you've enjoyed being out there in Spokane, like you mentioned, this year and change.
Yeah, it's been great. Jared especially is a good buddy of mine. Spent a lot of time with him since the draft this past summer. And so I've gotten really close with him away from the field, but, to kind of get to this on-field experience with him and get to share the field with him and hit behind him in the lineup. It's really easy for this group to grow close together, and, get comfortable with each other in the lineup and just kind of grow in that relationship.
How much does helping the team win that championship last year? You can bring that experience with some of the guys that weren't there or just had that taste of it with you. How has that helped you out and the team as a whole?
Yeah, totally. I mean, for me, it's like I got to taste the fruits of victory, really just at the end of the year last year. So I kind of know what this is working towards. From the beginning, I know how much each of those games at the end of the season mattered, and so kind of taking that same approach into these games still early in May. All these games count the same. Gotta get your money's worth on each of these weeks. So just knowing what you're working towards and knowing how important each little play is, each little game is.
Yeah, and not to jump too far ahead into the future, but you've now had this taste of winning with Spokane last year, and you're gonna be climbing up the ranks here, and eventually the goal is, of course, to make your debut with the Colorado Rockies, who are unfortunately in kind of a tough spot right now. Things are not going so hot for the big league team, but it's as one of the top prospects, you're considered one of the bright spots for the future of the organization. And what is something that you think or are looking forward to bringing to the organization as a whole, to sort of not to put everything on your shoulders, of course, because baseball is a team sport, but to be part of what will hopefully lift the Rockies up in this next wave of prospects?
Sure, yeah. I think it comes kind of from the farm system as a whole. I think we've got a really good group of young talent that's experienced some winning down here in the minor league level, and so I think it's really just going to be about bringing that winning culture up to the big leagues. Once this kind of wave of prospects makes it up. Sorry for the background noise there.
No worries.
But you just kind of bringing that culture back. We've got talent all throughout. We've got talent at the big league level. We've got talent coming up through, but it's just about, kind of bringing those good vibes and bringing that good energy of winning baseball and knowing what that's like with each other, and kind of knowing what we're looking for there. So, I plan on being a piece of that, obviously, and just bringing it all the way up to the top with this organization.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I like that because that's something I think the Rockies have tried to foster over the years. They're preaching that winning culture of building that in the minors. Win in the minors, then hopefully that will translate to the big leagues. And I think Spokane's proven to be a really good spot for that. Of course, last year, and then this season as well, hoping to redeem that or return back to that championship. Now, Charlie, as some of the, how do you see yourself as a leader in the clubhouse? Is that something that that approach to leadership with that pedigree you have? Are you kind of a little bit more of the rah-rah type of guy? Or are you kind of the more reserved, a little bit quieter behind the scenes approach to leadership?
Yeah, I think leadership is something that can be done in a handful of ways. Obviously, I wouldn't say I'm the rah-rah guy. I'd say I'm more of the lead by example and try to grow close to make that connection with guys. Being a guy that my teammates can trust, whether it be stuff on the field or away from the field. I want to be the guy that's there for people, and I think that's kind of where my leadership comes from is just creating strong relationships with guys. And it's not really about giving the big motivational speech in the locker room before the game. It's not getting guys ready to run through a wall. It's like knowing that, hey man, if I need somebody, I know he's going to be there for me. And then that goes a long way away from the field, but it also goes a long way on the field. Being a guy that guys can count on in the big spot, and also being a guy that guys can count on if someone doesn't come through. Just being there for your guys. That's the biggest kind of leadership I like to promote.
Awesome.
And the last sort of team leader for this organization was another gentleman named Charlie from the state of Georgia. I'm wondering if you've had any interactions with Charlie Blackman, who's now a special assistant to the general manager for the organization, since joining the team last year.
Yeah, Charlie actually came out and spent a decent amount of time with us during spring training, which was nice of him because he did not need to do that. But he's taken that role and he was really active with a lot of the minor league guys during spring training. Just standing behind the turtle during BP, talking shop with him, talking hitting with him, and then also just talking life with him. He's a really good dude, really good leader, kind of in a similar way that I had just talked about. You can tell he cares for his guys, and he cares for the organization. He wants to win. And so, just growing close to a guy like that, seeing how he did it all the way through the top of this organization and really was a leader for so long. Got a lot of respect for that dude and hope to spend more time with him here as I grow older too.
It's awesome. Well, Charlie, as we're running a little running out of time here with you, but we always like to ask a couple of more less baseball associated questions a little bit. But this one is baseball related. Who was your guy growing up? Who was the guy you're watching baseball as a kid? Who was your guy that you wanted to be growing up?
Chipper Jones was a big one, just being in the Atlanta area watching the Braves, and then Freddie as well, Freddie Freeman. As I kind of grew into more of a corner infield power hitting role, always had a ton of respect for that dude, how he plays the game, but also who he is as a person, and as a dad and as a family member, all that stuff. Seems like a class act. Have yet to meet him in person, but I've got a ton of respect for him and how he plays the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's tough for Freddie because he, of course, became a Los Angeles Dodger. The Rockies famously don't get along with, but you can't help but like the guy because of who he is, both on and off the field. Another question we like to ask people: Desert Island situation. I know it's early in the season. Who on your team, who in your clubhouse, are you going to turn to increase your chances of survival?
Cole Messina. Another Southern dude. I think he knows his way around a rifle, and I think that might come in handy. He's a good dude. Keep your head on straight, and that's my guy.
There you go. Always trust the catcher on
the Yeah, no doubt.
Something I was thinking about. You're out there in the Pacific Northwest with Spokane. What is a dish from back home that you just wish you could go out and get right now out there in Spokane that you can't?
Oh man, that's tough. Really, Waffle House in general. There's more Waffle Houses in the state of Georgia than there is in the rest of the country combined. And so you've got one on just about every other corner, but I don't even know if they've got them out here. But if I had to pick one thing, I think a good Waffle House All-Star Special would be up there.
I know we've got a smattering of them here in Colorado, but I have no idea if they've got any up there in Washington.
I haven't seen them. I know they got IHOP, but it's not the same.
It's not.
Few and far in between, yeah. I was expecting to say something like some barbecue or something, but Waffle House, I like it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need that taste of home.
Absolutely.
It's like all the Californians with their In-N-Out.
Right.
Alrighty. Well, Charlie, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute delight to have you on the show. Once again, this is Spokane Indians outfielder, Colorado Rockies top prospect, Charlie Condon, joining with us today. He is about to go get some time before he can get ready for tonight's game against the Tri-City Dust Devils. Hopefully a win. Charlie, best of luck the rest of the way, and we're going to be watching you with great interest.
Appreciate it. Sounds good. I appreciate it, guys.
All righty. Thanks again for joining us here on a Rooftop Mingle on Affected by Altitude with Rocky Mountain Rooftop. All righty. Thank you so much to Spokane Indians for helping facilitate that, but for Charlie Condon to talking with us. Interesting guy to talk with, and was really, he was great. He's great to have on the show. Like, I feel like everybody we interview, we always walk away going, "What a nice young man."
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing that the Rockies do is they do draft and they look into that character of a player. No, it matters a lot to the Rockies, which is good. Like I'm fine with that. You don't want a bunch of butt heads, type of thing. Good, solid young men, good heads on their shoulders, and obviously you can tell with a lot of them they're. It's always trying to get them to loosen up a little bit, which is what we always have fun with on the show.
Yeah.
But once you get them talking and find the right questions, you get to see a little bit more about them. And Charlie was that same way.
Yeah, they don't necessarily want to talk about themselves.
Yeah.
And so when you get to some of the other questions where it's like, well, let's talk about this coach, let's talk about your teammates, let's talk about your family, then you can really see them start to glow, as it were, of showing who they are personality wise, because it's tough. Like, even as a big league ball player, it's hard to get in front of a camera and talk about yourself.
Yeah. So it was good, and I liked his perspectives on leadership. I think that was the one that stuck out to me most. And that's really really kind of expounded the most, is talking about that leadership of he's not going to be the big rah type of guy. He's not going to drop the big motivational speech to make you run through a brick wall. I think is what he said. But he's a lot more of that quiet, kind of like a Charlie Blackmon, just that quiet leader in the clubhouse. Guys can turn to. No,
I'm here to take care of my boys.
Yeah, exactly.
But thanks again to Charlie for joining us, and we will continue to try and have more fun interviews for everybody here on Affected by Altitude and Rocky Mountain Rooftop.
Yeah, you can find those Rooftop Mingles. They'll be in this episode, but we usually put them up standalone as well. So you can, if you want to watch it again, we'll have a standalone Rooftop Mingle later in the week. We'll post this episode on Monday, and then the Rooftop Mingle later in the week, like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, somewhere in there.
Absolutely. And why don't you take a look back on both our YouTube channel and where you can find all your favorite podcasts at some of our previous Rooftop Mingles. We've talked to Jared Thomas while getting attacked by a bee. We've talked to Ryan Rollison, who has since made his big league debut. Drew Romo, Gabriel Hughes, lots of really great conversations we've had with these guys in the Rockies farm system.
Yeah, friends of the show are doing well this season. Across the league, Aiden Longwell down in Spokane, he's doing pretty well. Drew Romo's back playing down in Albuquerque, so we're happy for our friends of the show and our ever-expanding friends of the show.
And if there's, ever anybody that you would like us to try and specifically reach out to, drop us a comment and we'll see what we can do. It's not always easy, but we at least try to get these things set up.
It's a little easier to get guys that are not on the 40-man roster, which, hey, that's fun. I like highlighting those guys. No, just the prospects in general.
Well, Skyler, why don't you tell the folks where they can find you at?
You can find me when the wind sweeps across the mountains. But or you can find me over on Twitter or X.
No.
At Skyler Timmons, or over on Blue Sky, stimmons13.bsky.social. And writing the Wednesday Rock Piles over at Purple Row, as long as some game coverages on Thursdays and Saturdays. And also writing over at fansfirstsports.com, where I also have mainly been doing game recaps just because life's busy and those are easy to do. But always have other stuff that pops up there.
You can find me over on Blue Sky at evanlang27.bsky.social. I would love to hear from you. You can also catch me over on Purple Row writing the Monday Rock Pile and the weekly Pebble reports that usually go up on Tuesday. Remember that you can find Rocky Mountain Rooftop on all of your favorite podcasting platforms of choice, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and the like. You can also catch the video version of the show every week on youtube.com. Remember that you can also find Affected by Altitude and Rocky Mountain Rooftop on pretty much every social media platform, including YouTube, at Rocky Mountain Rooftop. That's at ROCKYMTN Rooftop. Thanks again for sticking with us through another episode. It's going to be a long, weird, dumb season, but we are here for every game of it, for better or for worse. And we appreciate you coming along for the ride.
Farewell.
I didn't even have to tell him to hit him with it.
This has been Affected by Altitude, a Colorado Rockies podcast with Rocky Mountain Rooftop, a proud affiliate of the Fans First Sports Network. Catch new episodes every Monday on wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Be sure to follow us on YouTube as well for video versions of the show.